Welcome everyone to another edition of Play It Through, and on this edition is Rollerblade Racer, brought to us by High Tech Expressions. While there may not be a ton of rollerblading games, this one has to be near the bottom of the barrel. A game that features 5 levels that you have to play through, all of which are the same basic gameplay for the most part, with the final level actually being a compilation of levels you've actually already played before. While I must admit the controls aren't the worst by any means for the NES, the point of the game is to get to the end of the levels before the time limit, jumping non-stop in order to get enough points to qualify for the championship at the end, and be able to get a high enough score to win the championship. Throw in a bad soundtrack, and you get Rollerblade Racer, a very shallow, not necessarily fun, short experience for the NES. So here we go with Rollerblade Racer for the NES. When the game starts up, you see the High Tech Expressions logo, one of my least favorite logos to see at the beginning of the game, and then we see the Radiant Software, who are the developers of the game. They developed a few other games, including the Great Waldo Search, as well as Sidearms, a shooter for the TurboGrafx 16. We play as Kirk, who just got a pair of rollerblades and immediately wants to enter a Superblade Racing Championship. In order to do so, he must go through a set of courses and score enough points in order to qualify. You only need 5,000 points to qualify for the very last level of the game. By the end of the first level, we'll probably have between 3,000 and 5,000 points. However, the game doesn't tell you that in order to win the final championship, you need to have a total of over 20,000 points. So you must keep getting points throughout all the levels, even once you've reached the 5,000 point total. Now the game has kind of an isometric view as you're in the different areas of the game, whether it's the streets, the city, the park, or the beach. And you hold up in order to, of course, gain momentum and speed. The more you hold it up, and the longer you go holding up, the more momentum you'll gain. However, if you run into any of the obstacles in the game, you fall flat on your face or on your back, and then you'll have to get back up and start at the lowest possible speed once again. While jumping, you don't necessarily gain momentum, but once you gain enough speed and then continue to jump, you can keep jumping over and over again over pretty much every obstacle you're going to face. Thankfully, the first level, while it actually is more difficult than the second level of the game, features a wide enough street for you to be able to jump over all the cracks, manholes, and avoid some of the other pitfalls and perils that you're going to have to deal with. After completing the first level of the game, you see that we have a pretty large amount of points already, and then we move on to the first of the bonus games. Now, while this is a bonus game, you still must complete it in order to continue. However, what you're pretty much doing is playing the final level of the game. The final level of the game is broken up into 3 different segments, the first of which is a barrel segment. That, of course, is what we're playing here, and then the in-between levels of all the other stages will be the other parts that we're going to have to do for the final level. You can see at the end, though, he says we already have enough points to qualify for the final, but now we move on to the second level of the game. Like I said, you need 20,000 total points in order to actually win the finale. The second level is much easier in my opinion than the first one. Staying on this part between the puddles on the left and the right median line, and just keep going up from that, jumping here and there once in a while. But for the most part, if you just hold up, you'll complete the stage in plenty of time. But we need to keep jumping in order to rack up enough points. Though none of the perils will actually get in your way. You're not going to get hit by any of the dogs that are running back and forth across the street. The first level, much tougher because there's a lot more stuff coming across the street. Here, it's just stray dogs. Now for the second bonus area of the game, we're now going around parking cones. Thankfully, it's not tough to get around the parking cones. Jumping over and in between the parking cones is good enough in order to avoid crashing into them. As far as crashing goes, though, you do have health points, and you do have lives. Every 3 falls, you end up losing a life. Once you've lost 3 lives, you then have to go to the continue screen and continue the game from there. I think there's a pretty much unlimited amount of continues, and since the game's so short, you probably won't see the continue screen too much while playing. The next level of the game is the toughest of the 4 main stages, and that's the beach. For the beach, you have a giant mound of sand to the right, you have a giant median of grass to the left, and a very, very short area in order to skate in. And with that very short area, you have a ton of stuff trying to get you, whether it's bouncing beach balls, seagulls, or the worst item in the game, the frisbees. These frisbees come from the right side of the screen and fly across. You cannot jump over the frisbees. If you try to jump over the frisbees, you just end up crashing immediately. What you actually have to do is either get far enough to the right on the very edge of the sand to avoid them, or duck. The only thing good about pressing the B button to duck is that you do maintain speed while ducking, so at least you don't lose anything like you may possibly while you're trying to jump and avoid some of the other stuff. Thankfully, by the end of the 3rd level, we've gained quite a few number of points, so we are pretty close to actually getting the championship before we even get to the 4th level of the game. For the 3rd segment of the final level, or the 3rd bonus stage here, we have a half pipe. Now, for what this is, you can actually do tricks on the side of it by getting close to the side and hitting the jump button. You'll do a little trick, gain an amount of points, and then be able to continue going on. Of course, while doing the trick on the side, you lose all your speed and momentum. So at the end of the game, when you get to the final level, you may not want to do so many of those, because of course you're on a strict time limit for the final. Level number 4 is the park. Now for the park, it's a little bit easier than the beach, but you have a lot of stuff you're going to have to be jumping over, including a ton of stairs that are set up here. Besides the stairs, though, you have Colonel Sanders, who's going to be reading his newspaper trying to trip you with his foot, a baby consistently rolling a ball across the park area, which is amazing how many babies are just sitting around, as well as, of course, the dogs are back, the frisbees are back, and you also see a few other things that I'm not sure if you can really run into the fish in the water, or to the little birds on the grass area. Of course, jumping into the grass instead of the actual path will cause you to massively slow down, and while you're trying to get your speed going, you're going to want to avoid that. Of course, jumping into the grass may save you time from time, instead of actually taking damage. The old men and the frisbees are still my least favorite things to deal with in the level, but you should still be able to finish the stage in plenty of time. Once you've completed it, since we've already done the other 3 bonus areas, it's now time just to go to the final level itself, the Super Rollerblade Challenge. Now for this level, like I said, it's just a combination of the 3 things we've been dealing with. You'll have a set of barrels, a set of cones, and then a half pipe. Now, one way you can actually cheat, if you have an exuberant amount of points, or you honestly don't care, you can actually jump all the way up to the sidewalk. If you do so, you will lose points while going through, though jumping kind of keeps it at a nice balance. But of course, if you want to maintain that 20,000 point score, you may not want to do the sidewalk the whole time. Thankfully though, the areas are pretty easy to dodge through, where it's the barrels, the cones, and of course the half pipe. Unless you want to slow down and get some extra points from the tricks, it's better just to jump through the half pipe and keep going. Once you've done 3 sets, you've completed the course and you've won the trophy. And there's your ending, and then followed right after that is the dog running across the street, and of course your guy rollerblading with the credits in between them. Yep, that's it. They don't even actually have a leaderboard for high scores for you to put your name in. Of course, it wouldn't be able to save anyway, but it kind of would be a little bit of a nice feature. And then as soon as you get past the credits, it starts and asks you, do you want to practice again, before starting the main game all over again. But with that, that's going to wrap up this edition of Play It Through. I'd like to thank you for watching, and of course, I hope you enjoyed.